It's here, and it's killing unsuspecting Americans. Are you next? This is The Record. Families who have been ravaged by fentanyl are taking to the streets. Parents who buried their children killed by fentanyl took their heartbreak and their outrage to the White House. They held a rally at the gates of the White House, demanding that the White House do something. National correspondent Logan Raddick has more. Logan.
Yeah, Greta, the crisis is so bad that these families are coming to Washington demanding action. We know from the Texas Department of Public Safety that they've seized enough fentanyl to kill every American in the country, but also in the year 2021, there were more than 100,000 drug overdose deaths. That is the most on record in our country. But over the weekend, as you discussed, there was this Lost Voices of Fentanyl march that went from Capitol Hill all the way down to the White House. And hundreds of families, they carried more than 50 banners with faces of at least 3,500 people who died from fentanyl overdoses, many of whom were young, even teenagers, and also a group of sheriffs from around the country. They came to D.C. on Friday, and they were with Republicans in Congress, both the sheriffs and the Republicans demanding action from the White House.
This week alone, my detectives in Culpeper have purchased enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in my county just this week.
You can die from 1 to 2 milligrams of fentanyl, and that fits on the end of the point of a pencil. But the people we're talking about dying, one pill can kill. They take Xanax, they take some pill, they take something they think is fine, it's got fentanyl in it, boom, they're dead.
And this is also a big issue on the campaign trail, with Colorado Republican Senate nominee Joe O'Dea making it a focal point of his campaign against Senator Michael Bennet.
We've got fentanyl killing our kids. People call what he did cruel. You know what's cruel? Is ignoring this issue. Democrats are ignoring it, doing nothing while our kids are dying.
And while that may be the case for Democrats in Congress, it's not the case for Democratic and Republican attorney generals in states from Texas to Connecticut. They're calling on the Biden administration to declare fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, writing in part, quote, "Your own administration has called fentanyl the deadliest threat the DEA has ever seen. We should treat it as such." But Greta, as long as people are still coming across the border undetected, we know that there's been over 500,000 gotaways. We don't know if those people are bringing fentanyl or not. We know that's the way Republicans want to solve the crisis. So as long as people are coming across the border, it seems like this fentanyl crisis will continue. But Democrats, they have their own way of going about it. They want to see needle programs and stuff like that, drug education, while Republicans say close that southern border.
Meanwhile, more than 300 people, I think, are dying a day from these overdoses,
That's
which
correct.
is like an airline crash every single day in this country, I think is what Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said. Logan, thank you.
Thank you.
Logan Raddick. Well, this crisis is obviously not going away, and it's getting bigger and bigger every single day. Police in Florida say that they have arrested a man with enough fentanyl to kill 100,000 people. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office says 52-year-old Adrian Kamai Rivers is facing multiple charges, including felony trafficking in fentanyl. Now, in addition to having a lengthy rap sheet, Rivers is also said to be violating his probation. Kansas Senator Dr. Roger Marshall joins me. Good evening, sir.
Greta, great to see you.
Nice to talk to you, sir. Well, let's start first with at least one effort to try to do something. You have advocated something called the Cooper Davis Act. What is that?
Yeah, well, Greta, Cooper Davis was a beautiful young man, a junior in high school. And about a year ago, he ordered 2 Percocet tablets online from Snapchat. Cooper took 1/2 of one pill and he died. So what our legislation would do is to hold Snapchat, social media accountable, that they need to be proactively working with our law enforcement officers, just like they do with human trafficking, child pornography, that type of thing. But just want to emphasize what an epidemic that this truly, truly is. Fentanyl poisoning is the #1 killer for young adults. We've lost more Americans from fentanyl poisoning than we lost soldiers in the Vietnam War. We need President Biden to declare this a true emergency. This is the health emergency in this country, is fentanyl poisoning, which is killing so many of our young adults.
All right, about a week ago, you wrote a letter, you and a number of other senators, you wrote it to the CEOs of Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Essentially, you know, the way I look at reading this letter, you're begging for help. Have they responded?
So, Greta, they've not responded yet, but I do know that we have our offices communicating directly with several of them now. Look, they know how to fix the problem better than I do. I've always said those closest to the problem can fix it. I expect them to cooperate. I assume that there's good people there as well. So we're going to figure this out. This is something that we can do, but we're just putting the finger in the dike. As you just mentioned earlier, the real problem is the open southern border. 7 tons of fentanyl came across the border in the past year. This is just swelling. The problem is swelling. Every day, hundreds of Americans dying.
Well, you know, some of this stuff, though, besides coming from China to the cartels in Texas across the border in the United States, some is coming through the U.S. mail. And so, you know, what is being done by the U.S. Postal Service when they see a strange package keep going to a house with a Chinese return address? You know, is there nothing that the Postal Service can try to do to? I mean, no one can solve this alone. But you know, what about those? What about it being delivered in the U.S. mail?
Well, Greta, certainly that's something that we addressed several years ago, and we put pressure on the post office. And you know, I heard story after story of the drug dogs just sniffing the letter and dying from it. That this fentanyl is so poisoning. I really think the emphasis right now is how do we stop the production going on by the cartel in Mexico, the fentanyl precursors being made in China, shipped to Mexico, Chinese chemists make it. That's 90% of it. I'm sure we can put more pressure through the postal services as well. But whatever it takes, all hands on deck. The biggest thing we could do, though, is stop this open border where it's all coming through. 90% of it's coming through.
It's almost as though China and the cartels have declared war on the United States and have this sort of this silent war that's killing all these people all the time. I mean, if this were someone coming with a tank over the border from Canada, you know, we would take more action. But every single day, this is coming into our country, and it is killing, and everybody knows it. Will it take probably a child of a U.S. senator to die before something is done? I mean, how catastrophic is, you know, when it stops being some other person's kid? Is that what it's going to take?
Yeah. Well, Greta, certainly. I just can't imagine why this is continuing to happen, why the White House won't acknowledge that this is happening. But you're sure right that China is making fentanyl like we make airplanes in Kansas. They make the precursors there. They're encouraged to make it. They ship it. They're working hand in glove with the cartel. What's it going to take to stop it? You know, why won't Joe Biden address the problem at the southern border? That's because he wants this problem, and he's willing to sacrifice hundreds of our young adults every day to achieve his political objectives. So we know how to fix it, and that's why it's so frustrating. I don't know what else we can do. We've been harping on this for 6 months. The White House, though, continues to turn their back. Just recently.
With all due respect, even 6 months is not enough because it's been going on so long. But look, you questioned the CDC director recently about this. What did she say? Did she provide you any sort of sense that this is high priority, at least at the CDC?
Well, certainly they're not doing enough. And what she implied is that she's having conversations with the HHS secretary who can declare this a health emergency. So she does say that they're having their conversations. I don't know what Secretary Becerra is waiting on. He's the one that could declare this a medical emergency, help us get the Narcan into the schools. My goodness, we got Halloween around the corner, and they're making this fentanyl look like candy now as well. So there is so much more the secretary could do, but the biggest problem is we need the DHS secretary to do his job and secure our border.
Well, I don't wish it on any family, these deaths at all. And I've talked to parents who've lost kids, but I'll tell you, it's like, you know, it's almost as though it's going to have to hit really close to home in Washington for something to be done, because this is just something, and I don't wish that on anybody, on any family, you know, in politics. But this is the war that everyone's just looking the other way. Anyway, Senator, thank you very much, and good luck with your act, sir.
Thank you, Greta.